Thank you. Let us resume. Next topic, 3.02, superintendent search discussion.
Yeah. So, we, in light of the news of Dr. Salins' retirement after her many years of public service, we are now faced with the opportunity to engage in a superintendent search. I just went through one in a neighboring county, and so I have, I think, a very positive experience to bring with you about that. What I was planning on doing tonight, and then it's gonna leave it up to you about how you want to handle next steps, are present some options and a general timeline of what needs to happen. So, first, our options. Or do you want to hear the options first, or kind of our general timeline?
Surprise.
Options. Our options are, the way I see it, and feel free to chime in with any ideas, are to use MABE, the Maryland Association of Boards of Education, offers a superintendent search for a fee. They have consultants that are actually from the shore who do these searches, who have many decades of experience individually and certainly combined on the shore and in public education of Maryland, and they do the search. And it's everything from all the logistics of the search, sourcing the candidates, putting the advertisements out there, basically hand-holding the board through the process. That was my experience. Most recently is using MABE, and I would suggest, if that's even a possibility of something the board wants to consider, that you, I or the board president and vice president can reach out to the MABE executive director to set up for them to come out and do a presentation and proposal to you all of what it looks like. Last year, when a neighboring county was going through this, just Kent, your neighbor to the north, came out and did a public presentation at the first meeting in February. So we're right on track about what their services are and who's going to be involved, what the potential costs are, and answered any questions that the board had. That's option number one. Option number two is to use a private search firm. So it's basically the same general process as MABE, but using a private executive search firm. Just anecdotally, I know some other districts on the shore have done that. I don't have any personal experience with that, but some of my colleagues do. And I just couldn't tell you much more than that, but that's an option. Another option is to not use a firm, not use a search firm to conduct the process yourselves. There's nothing in the statute that says that you have to use a search firm or a consultant. It just, between making an application and circulating the application, putting the job vacancy announcement out there on different platforms and circulating it in trade journals at statewide, national level, depending on what you want to do. Having the search firm in place to do all that is helpful. But you don't have to use a search firm. So that would be option number three. So before I go on to the kind of general timeline, do you have any questions about that? And at the end of this meeting, I would say, if you want me to reach out to MABE and reach out to the private search firm that I know a colleague of mine has used, and get dates for them to come in and present to you, I would say let's do that as soon as possible. I know the next meeting that you all have scheduled right now is February 5th. Is that right?
Yes.
So that would be an ideal time to do it.
Could that happen?
Absolutely.
Do we want that? It's free, right? Like they just come.
They'll come and talk to us for free, but everything else is going to cost
Understood,
us.
but
Right.
could they both come that night and present, or?
Well, I'll have to check. I'm sure
Right.
MABE could.
Milton probably, it would
they
be
could probably
Milton
make it
Nagel.
happen.
He would probably not have a problem with that.
Yeah. And it
to
would
better
probably
understand
be
the
email.
cost and
Exactly.
all that stuff.
They have a PowerPoint. They do the whole thing. That's, a service that they offer.
Is this something that would be done in closed session?
No, it'd be done in open.
Okay.
So then let me talk about general timeline. So here we are sitting at January 22nd, 2025. And I'll just share with you, ultimately we have to the board has to make an appointment in June, just because Dr. Salins' contract expires June 30th. You have to have someone sitting in place July 1 of 2025. So we're kind of working back from making that appointment at your June meeting for them to start and get start on July 1. So we're here in February. Let's say we're gonna start in February. You're gonna have a meeting and you're gonna hear from the search firms on what your options are with that. What would generally happen in February would be determining the process you're going to use, hiring a search firm if that's the avenue that you decide to take. Starting to get, my experience with MABE was that's when they started getting community input on characteristics that they want to see in the applicants, strengths and weaknesses about the school system, and that's when we meet privately to determine parameters for salary and benefits. That's in February. And then in March, late February, early March, we should start thinking about reviewing that community input. And those are all, we're going to gather input from the community through surveys. And that's something that that MABE would do, and that I would hope that a private search firm would do as well. Finalize the parameters for the hiring, adopt any criteria or characteristics that we learned from the community surveys in creating the application, the job announcement, and what we're looking for. March, so that would be March, and then we start getting applications out end of March, early April, hopefully start applicant screening if we get, a number of applications, early to mid-April. Mid-April, applications come in. The search firm will do background checks, reference checks on those folks who apply, and select initial interviews to be conducted with a pool of applicants. April, end of April, early May, second round interviews. Typically what happens is finalists are announced mid to end of May. You might have seen this happen with a few vacancies that occurred on the shore. There was Kent, Somerset had a vacancy that they just filled. I feel like there was one more on the shore that was just filled. Am I missing one?
Dorchester?
Yes, Dorchester. I just remember seeing Somerset announcing the finalists, and Kent announced the finalists and things like that. Then typically the finalists come to the community, and that's your opportunity to get community input, do tours, get representatives from community organizations, whether that be chambers of commerce, professional associations, neighborhood associations, just different aspects of the community to come and send representatives in to meet these folks. And then final interviews with the board, all facilitated by the consultant, and then we select a finalist in June, hopefully early June, to allow for time to negotiate a contract with that person. So, once we select someone, we hope that it goes through. We can't push it all the way to the end of June because we're going to have that in place for July 1. So hopefully those contract negotiations go smoothly. That's something that I would assist with. And then hopefully we're sitting here July 1, having successfully gone through that process, and you have a candidate that you all are happy with, and they're happy to be here. That's like the overview of the process and how it works. You'll probably, if you decide to have MABE come and present, they'll get into more nitty-gritty of what that looks like. But if you followed along what just went up if you followed what happened in Kent, your neighbor just last year, that's basically what happened.
Is it safe to assume that we would, because we do, like when I'm looking at the board meetings, March, April, and May, it's going to be 2 meetings that month? Like, remember we talked about adding in, is it easier to add on as we go or put them on and take them off? Like, is it safe to assume with this on our plate,
Traditionally, we have 2 a month, except for when we're in budget season, then we have 3.
Okay.
Or December, when we only have 1, because it's Christmas and the holidays.
I guess, I mean, for my planning purposes, should it be safe to assume that we're going to need, because right now, the current calendar doesn't have a second meeting for March, April, May.
We'll have to add one. We'll have to add those,
Okay.
so we can continue.
I think we're going to need to
So,
maximize the time.
yeah, so typically because you have other business that you have, but we just spent a lot of time talking about a budget, so you're
Yep.
going to be getting into, this occurs during the same time as your budget discussions take place. So it would likely involve additional meetings beyond your regular board meetings. Not a ton, but some. The other option that I did not mention before is if, is an interim, and something to consider as well. 4201 of the education article, that's the law that says the term of the county superintendent is 4 years, begins on July 1, and that's where the February 1 date is, where Dr. Salins announced that she is not a candidate for reappointment, that she's going to be retiring. And but the law does allow that if the county board is unable to appoint a county superintendent by July 1, the law provides that the county board shall appoint an interim county superintendent who serves until July 1 after the interim's appointment. So basically, it's a 1-year interim. So it is a way to buy more time. And I do recall that some county boards think at the beginning of the process, oh, well, maybe we need to do interim. There's not going to be more time, we need more time, but you're always going to be left with this amount of time, no matter, if you do it this year or next year.
And they can serve up to 2 years as an interim superintendent. Unless that law has changed, like in the last.
I see that they serve until July 1 after the interim
But
county
what I'm
superintendent's
saying is I
appointment.
believe that
Okay.
they could appoint for another 1-year interim term.
I'll have to check on that.
Yeah, I
but
think that's
I
the
don't
way
see
it used to
anything
be, but
stopping
maybe
that.
it's changed.
Yeah. So, let me just check our calendar. We have a February 5th meeting? right?
Yes.
See, I'll announce that later.
Okay.
Again.
So, would you like me to reach out to MABE and see if or do you want to do it?
If you could do the research firm, I'll do maybe.
The private search firm? Okay, I will do that. And I think, did you get contacted by one?
Oh, yeah, there was another one that came in. Did I forward you that one?
I think you did.
Okay, so I don't know that everybody received it, but let me
I think the
just
rest of
tell
the-
you. From mail. There is a group that reached out. School Exec Connect, a nationwide executive search firm. So, the word's out. So we're starting to get emails from folks.
So,
We want to include them as one of the search folks. It's fine.
They have one Google review. They have a 1-star Google review.
and this is
Do
something
they?
that,
Yeah.
All right.
kind of like your first task.
Winner, winner. Chicken dinner.
This is your first task, is picking, deciding how you're going to go about the
Yep.
process. And then once you decide how you're going to go about the process, then it gets rolling, and then they'll pick up the timeline from there. They'll hold your hand through that process.
So I have a serious question. Is this accounted for in our budget in anywhere? So this would be a cost above and beyond what we already have available.
That's accurate. So this isn't like the board line item of like where it says board expenses, or it's not accounted for anywhere? Okay.
I don't want to quote a price because it's not my place to do it, but they will quote you a price. And I don't know, we're sitting here a year later, I don't know what it's going to be. but it is a cost. But they also provide a service, so.
Correct.
So I will, so I'll contact the private, and Shannon, or Ms. Bent, you will contact Milton.
No, yes.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me? Other than that?
In the process.
Yeah, as we get deeper into the process, there will be, I think I alluded to this last meeting. As we get deeper into the process, there will be portions that take place in closed session under personnel, and there will be portions of the process that take place outside of the Open Meetings Act entirely. I'll advise you all when we get to that. But, a lot of it does involve public community input. It's a very significant decision for the public, and so, a lot of it does take place out in open.
So I know we've all gotten, from the past couple of months about the superintendent search and community input and having committees and stuff like that. That's completely different than, the public gets to meet these people and different stakeholders. But as far as having the public pick the superintendent, that's ultimately the board's.
The board is statutorily responsible
Right.
for appointing the superintendent. How you go about doing that is up to you all.
It's our only
And just
job.
to really review, to review, they can use a private search firm.
Right.
They can use MABE as a search firm. They don't have to use a search
Correct.
firm at all. They can do their own interview process.
Correct.
Or they could appoint, or they could establish an interim.
Correct. Right. Statute says the board appoints. Doesn't say you have to do any particular method in reaching that decision.
All right.
We have a,
But the timeline goes fast, so,
the prereqs,
sorry?
to be a superintendent.
Right. Yeah, so some of the basics are, the person has to hold a superintendent certificate. That's something that we get a search firm, or if we do it, we would have to check and make sure that they hold that proper certificate through the state of Maryland, MSDE. Yeah, let me get to the statute really quick, because there's a,
And there are two other
they have to be,
superintendent searches going. There will potentially be two other searches, at least at this point in time, going
On
on.
the Eastern Shore?
Worcester.
Yes, and,
And I'm gonna read to you the qualifications.
go
in a
ahead,
second.
let me think about it,
Okay.
because there's three.
Right,
Oh,
so-
Allegheny County, sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
we're kind of in the middle.
Allegheny, Worcester, and Queen Anne's. Just FYI, that's certainly
Yeah.
something to think about.
Absolutely.
There's multiple searches going on at
Yeah.
one time.
So the qualifications to be a superintendent by statute are the certificate that I mentioned. They have to have graduated from an accredited college or university, and they have to have completed 2 years of graduate work at an accredited college or university, including public school administration, supervision, and methods of teaching. And then the appointment of the county superintendent has to be approved in writing by the state superintendent. And so I handle that at the end of the process after you all have selected a finalist. And you make that announcement of who that person is. I then write to the state superintendent, and usually within a matter of, shortly thereafter, we would expect to hear back from the state superintendent regarding the state superintendent's approval of that appointment. But that is a precondition.
Okay. Any other questions?
All right, so I'm tracking, they don't have to have a doctorate then?
They do not.
No.
We have several superintendents. It's basically a credit count.
Right,
In
right.
specific categories, they do an audit on your credit base. So you do not, but. if
The
they-
reason you see it is because it's so many credits, it
Right,
usually ends up.
Exactly,
Enough
yeah.
to get
The
one.
majority of the superintendents do have a doctorate degree.
Right.
Or,
I'm just seeing it over, like, repeatedly, that's why I was just
Yes.
making, but if we have a candidate or people coming up asking, I just wanna make sure I
yeah,
have
that's a good
giving the
point.
proper information.
I checked your local policies and procedures. I didn't see anything in particular about, the person has to be a resident of Queen Anne's County. I didn't see anything like that. So, I'm basically just looking at the state law, because you don't have any local rules. Some other counties have local rules saying,
Right.
person has to live here or something like that. But I didn't see anything for you.
Any other questions? We will move on to the board handbook review and revisions. It's an action item. We did not approve this at the last meeting because there were still questions.
There was a couple questions so the ones I had was the copy that we had that there was comments and stuff on. There was a bunch of different pages that didn't match what we have now as our handbook. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was able to read through them and compare them. I mean, they weren't, I mean, I don't know, everybody could have a difference of opinion. I don't think there is anything that is that major or significant. And then there was a couple things in there that I had comments from board members, past and present, stating like a couple of the things in there that we don't do. So just as long as everybody is on the same page, like the board retreat and the self-evaluation stuff, that hasn't been done while I've been here. So just checking in with other board members to see what their thoughts and opinions were.
If we're not doing this stuff, it shouldn't be in there, right? So, I mean, if we're eliminating a couple things, make sure we just, if we're not doing a board retreat, we're in self-evaluation, all that kind of stuff. If it's in there, we should be doing it.
The last one we did was local.
The last retreat we did. Yeah, we did.
We did it here.
We did, and I guess you might not have been on the board at that point.
No, I don't think so, because we've never done anything.
And I know that I brought it up to the board, and
Right.
they're the ones who decided not to do the retreat. That's not to say that we
That's
can't do a
true.
retreat, and we're
Right.
happy to accommodate
Right.
that.
I'm just saying, if it's in the handbook, we should be doing it. If we choose not to do the retreat, I don't know what the retreat pertains. I haven't been on board, so I
Usually
don't
just, I
really
mean,
know.
it depends on the topics of what the board wants to hear. Sometimes it's specific things like reports on attendance or graduation rate, those types of things. Or sometimes it's like, we want to hear more about the Open Meetings Act, or we want to hear more about something that, MABE can provide as it relates to legislation or, budgets and things like that.
The
So,
last one we included the rebranding.
yes, that's right.
And we had new goals and mission
Yes,
statements
mission,
and
vision, and
vision
core
statements
values,
and stuff
core
that needed
beliefs.
to be.
Does it usually take place here? Do they have them
We do it local.
at like a restaurant or?
Nope.
No,
Right
we
there.
just right here, and we typically.
When I picture retreat, I think of,
Yeah.
you're going to do a team building, you're going to do something that involves like the legislation.
We haven't,
You
I
kinda
mean, in
mix
all
it
fairness, we
together.
really haven't had the funding for that. If we
Right.
did have the funding, it's a great idea, and,
Right.
and in the past, I think some of us have engaged in those types of retreats before, but no, recently, we haven't been doing that, and, from my perspective, the executive team is happy to entertain anything that the board would want. If you provide us with topics and dates that you're available and a time frame, because that one, I think we ended up doing like 9 to 2. That was, I've done them before, believe me, from 8 to 5. I mean, we've had different opportunities, so whatever the board would like to do and whatever topics they would like to hear, we're happy to accommodate that. I also want to give a plug that ESMEC does a retreat every year. This year, the retreat is in Ocean City. It's a full-day retreat. I believe that Mrs. Dennis has already sent that information out with a beg to please put that on your calendars. I really strongly encourage you to try your best to do that with your new superintendent, because it's a very good opportunity to kind of bond together, have a day to just kind of work through some good content together. Usually the Teacher of the Year usually speaks for the state of Maryland. Typically, there's another motivational type speaker. Always good information, always well developed. And so I would strongly encourage you to take that time off. I'm sure Mrs. Dennis can pull that date up and share it again with everyone. So that is one type of retreat that the board typically will engage in. But we're happy to do, absolutely happy to provide anything
So
else.
it's very informational based on whatever we need.
Yes, absolutely, 100%.
I don't see that being an issue. I mean, I personally don't see that being a bad thing. But if they didn't do it in the past, doesn't mean we can't change it now, or we do it. I mean, that's
Absolutely.
your guys'
Yep.
opinion.
Yeah.
Because I mean, more information, you know, knowledge is power. So
Yeah.
the more information we have,
Yeah.
it just makes us better. But I don't know what your guys' opinion on that scenario is.
But either way, whatever anybody else, if they want to keep it and then add, you know, an request an informational item or.
Right.
And MABE offers a ton of programs throughout the year, but also they facilitate retreats.
Team building
Right.
opportunities.
I've been in those, yeah.
If anything costs money right now, that's a no.
Yeah.
No, maybe it doesn't cost us.
But I'm saying
money.
if they have those options where they come in or provide services.
They
or
do.
something like
Mabel
that,
come in
that'd be-
and,
Mabe representative did part of that session the
She
last time we
did,
did it,
yep.
from 9 to 2.
yep, she did part of that session on, I believe it was on the Open Meetings Act and also kind of like the role of a board member, like what your role is. And she articulated out each piece of that and just talked about, you know, how collectively you're one voice and things like that, so.
Do you have anything else, Alexis?
No, that was it. So if everybody's good with it, then,
So it's just trying to match
Yep.
yeah.
things. Okay. Us being new board members, like we see the difference in the handbooks, but not being here, we can't
Right,
fully
that's
speak
why-
on and
Right.
fully understand the operational aspect of it. So that we're gonna rely on you two to. And if you guys say it's good, we've read it.
I have no problems with the
I'd
changes.
like to make a just a suggestion, obviously, you know, it's up to you guys, how you want to proceed. I'd like to be able to get a final version together without, you know, with the suggested edits, and then make sure that I'm interpreting how you want it to be edited correctly, and then maybe put this on the next February 5th agenda to be voted upon. That would be a suggestion.
Okay. I can
Fine.
send you all the page numbers where it differs
I
from this
can
one.
see, so through Google Docs, I'm able to track changes, but
Okay.
if you have any, if I can, I'll try to work on this and get it done by the end of next week, so that way I
Okay.
can get it to everybody, so that you have some ample time to provide me with any kind of feedback that you'd like to see changed, and then once we have a clean final copy, I think that'd be the best way to move forward, to vote,
Okay.
Okay,
just a suggestion.
that works. Any objections or any other comments?
Sounds great.
Okay. Ooh, last item. Future meetings and events, February 5th, 2025, 6 PM. At this point, I need somebody to make a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion for the Queen Anne's County Board of Education to adjourn the January 22nd, 2022, 2025 work session.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye.